Hey.
So today we're going to be doing my favorite thing, motor swaps.
Yep, it's a lot better than transfer cases and stuff, but there it is. So this Jeep belongs to our buddy Alex. Actually, it belongs to his wife, Kristen. It decided it didn't want to run on all 6 cylinders anymore. So today we're going to be taking that 3.6 out of that Jeep and putting in a good running 3.6, and we're going to show you how to do it. This is a 2018 Jeep Sahara. It's got a couple of goodies on it already, but cylinder 4 decided it didn't want to play anymore. They did a carbon check and the motor is full of carbon. And it's pretty dirty. But on a side note, I then have a Rubicon 3.6. I've had this laying around for a while, so now we're going to install this very well running 3.6 that we did a Hemi swap. That's why I have it. So we're going to do that into this. So with the JL getting older, motor swaps are going to become more prevalent in these, whether you go to an LS or a Hemi or whatever you want to do. Today we're going to show you how I do motor swaps. Traditionally, you drain the coolant, pull the radiator, and undo bell housing bolts and pull this thing out of the top. But this has a solid axle. There's a bunch of other stuff going on under there. It is amazingly easier to actually pull the body. You could probably pull the cab in about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 if you're kind of slow. It's not that hard. And then once the body's up, the motor and the transfer case is right in front of you. It's so much easier. If you don't have a lift, find a buddy who has one. I would also recommend, if you're going to do this job, is to take it to an AC place and have the AC evacuated. I mean, you're not supposed to just let it go in the air. I actually have an evacuation system, so I'm going to pull the Freon out of this. And then we're going to go ahead and take this whole front clip off. It's pretty easy, so let's get this thing evacuated. First things first, we drain the radiator. Now this one's missing part of the front bumper, so it's really easy to see. That guy right there, that is the pit cock to drain the radiator, but as you can see, it's gonna drain right onto all this hoses and stuff and the sway bar and everything and kind of make a mess. That's where the hose comes in handy. So you go like this and you put the hose on there like that. And you just drain it into a bucket. All right, so while that's draining, we're gonna go ahead and get this AC system evacuated. Now this is a 1, 2, 3, 4 YZFX system. So I have these adapters to go to my R134. But this tank is a 1, 2, 3, 4 tank because I've done so many Jeeps. This is now a dedicated 1, 2, 3, 4 tank through a vacuum. So we just have to evacuate this system. Pretty easy. Pop this guy open, pop this guy open, pop these guys open, and then open this guy so that we can get that in there. And then we go to vapor, we open that up, on we go. So now it should be evacuating the system into that. So we will know shortly, and we will collect all that Freon. All right, now that we got that guy going, next thing we're gonna do is yank this front end off. You just have to take 6 of these clips out. That one, that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. And then we can pull this whole nose off. Well, at least the fascia off. Somebody over there is playing and having a good old time. All right, so with these 6 clips removed, you just give it a little tug, and there's a couple of clips across this bottom right here. And one right here, and one over here, and it should come off. All right, so next you're gonna wanna take this intake tube off, unplug the coolant or the air temp sensor and stuff. Unplug that, pull this whole thing off. You can pull that guy off if you'd like. We're gonna pull this top strip off, which is a couple of clips. All right, so now that the intake and everything is out of the way, you don't have to do this next part, but I find it much easier. So now that the AC is evacuated, we're gonna pull the headlights, disconnect them. You got this little clip right here, 2 coolant lines, the return line, and 2 trans lines right there. And then a couple of 13s, and this whole nose piece should come off. So we are going to do that because I find it much easier without any of this in the way. Again, this part is pretty easy. A couple of 10s here for the headlight. Now after this, we gotta take these 2 radiator lines off, and that one down there. Okay, so next you gotta do these oh crap clips to get the trans lines out. They're pretty easy if you start it. Make sure you keep your finger on it, but you don't want to lose them. And then rotate them out of there. They look like that. And then a little wiggle. Okay, maybe a big wiggle, and she'll come out. I promise. There it goes. And it comes out. Ooh, we are a little dirty. Well, that's fine, because we are going to put a new trans on this also. And we'll do the bottom one. And we'll take that one out of there. All right, now that you've got both trans lines off, both AC lines off, and there are 3 coolant lines. Don't forget that little guy right there. These 2 13s, these 2 13s, and these 2 13s. Also, 2, 2, and 2, and this whole front clip should come off. Oh, provided you did undo that clip. Oh, I gotta undo these 2 also, I forgot. Okay, so these 2 clippies. I forgot about the hood release sensors. So you got 1, and then you got 2. Okay. And that's it. Now that the nose is off, we're going to want to take off the reservoir off of this block. You're going to want to take the battery out. The main charge harness from the alternator you're going to want to take off. And there's one big connector right here. You're going to want to undo this one. If you have inner fenders, you're going to want to probably go from here. This one has some tin ones in here. It's easy enough to get to this and unplug it from here. And then next we're going to want to work on the driver's side. We want to take this AC line off here. We want to take the washer reservoir out, the ECU out, and disconnect the ABS block bracket from this frame rail. In order to do that, you got to take that tin off, pull this line out. There's 2 bolts that hold this in, because this is going to go down with the chassis. So, well, not down, but it's going to stay with the chassis. So let's get all that going first, and I'll walk you through that. All right, so first, the AC line. That is a 13 millimeter. I want to pop this off. Just use a panel popper and pop all these hoses off, or pop all these guys off of here. Got the little yellow safety. Pull up, she comes apart. Pop this ground strap off. Remember to put this one back on. Bolt down here on the bottom, and then I'm pretty sure that just comes out. Once that guy's out of the way, you're going to want to undo these 2 bolts, because this is going to stay with the chassis, or this is going to stay with the body. This needs to go down with the chassis. There's 2 bolts up here, and in order to get to those 2, you got to take this one loose, and you can push this out of the way and get to that bolt and that bolt. This is going to stay again with the chassis. You need to unplug this, unplug the booster, and unplug the master. Alright, I lied to you. There's 2 more bolts underneath this harness. Now that this bracket is free, and we've pulled all of this harness up out of the way, 2 nuts on the master cylinder. We're going to pull the master cylinder out. We're going to undo this vacuum line to the booster, which I think I can do. Yep. Pull the lock. Pull that guy off. This is going to go with the motor. This stays with the cab. 2 coolant lines, this one and the one underneath this reservoir. But if you don't want to get that, this line goes right to here, so you can pop it off of there. So we'll do that next. All right, so now that we have the master off, this will come out and this will come off. This guy is undone. Believe it or not, I think we're just about done on the top. We do have to get a steering column, which is easier from the bottom. There are some grounds in this fender that you have to get off. There's a connector in the rear wheel well that we have to get off. And any lights that are back here unplugged from the chassis. We will then loosen up all of the body bolts and get ready for it to come off. But now we got to get it up in the air.
Well, I thought I was going to be more help and get my hands dirty a little bit more, but this little guy hasn't let me. So we're just going to baby wear him and we're going to do it anyway. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get all the body bolts off. There's one up here at the radiator in the front. There is one right there, one right there, one right there, and then one right there, same on the back, or on the other side. Sorry in advance for the baby cries, but it is what it is. Okay, let's safety first this.
Get your head in there, buddy.
Put on your safety glasses.
There you go.
Goodbye.
Perfect.
Goodbye. Just 1 second. Woo! Well, that didn't work, so headed home.
Mama really wanted to help, but supervisor had other ideas, so unfortunately they had to go home because I am not working in my garage at home. All right, we got the inner fenders out, and now we will walk around wheel well to wheel well, and I will show you what you got to do. All right, starting with the passenger side, you would have had to have undone this connector. This connector's already undone. In here, there is a ground on the chassis. If you're in a Rubicon, there are 2 grounds here, so make sure you get them both undone. So we got to take that one off. All right, now that we got this ground off, we need to undo this connection right here. Pretty easy. Pushing this little tab right here. Boop. Top comes up, pull it out, and then make sure you undo the harness from the firewall, just like it's so. Oh, well, that's great. We'll fix that. Because this is the engine harness, so this goes over to the engine. There's another Christmas tree guy right there. We'll have to get off the firewall. There it is. All right. Pretty sure, 99% sure, passenger side wheel well is done. All right, as far as the passenger side rear wheel well, you need to take this safety off, take these clips off. There's a red one and a green one. Simply by peeling these apart and pulling it off. And then there is basically the white button underneath you'll need to push up and inside, and this will come out and unlock, and then this one is over here, push that, it will unlock. I'll have to do that later. I gotta get a special tool. Then you do want to disconnect this guy, which is the same as the front. Push the pin. Sometimes these are dirty, and they are not fun to do when they are dirty. If they are dirty, you might need to get a screwdriver in here to push that in. 2018 Jeeps, this connector is basically upside down. In the newer ones, these two are backwards so that this doesn't fill with dirt. But in the 2018, they used to like to fill with dirt. There was actually shorting in here sometimes on some of them. So if you have an 18, good luck with this connector. Oh, you can hear all the dirt in there. Got it. All right, so I figured it out and how I'm going to do it, or how I did it. You have to get this guy off, which only comes off at about 45 degrees because of the way this is clocked, and then you can pry underneath it and pry this off. What I then had to do, snap ring pliers. You have to get in here and work this one side at a time and just spread it a little bit. Go to the other side. Spread it a little bit. There is so much dirt in here. I have not got this apart yet either. Look at all that dirt. That is incredible. So if you're having like body control issues, this is probably the guy. Look at all that dirt. I bet you I can get it by hand now. Oh yeah. Oh. So, there's not a lot of moisture in here. There's not a lot of dirt in here, so I don't think there's a lot of moisture, but there's a lot of mud on the outside, which is why they don't like to come out. Oh, and then these guys. You just push this white pin in the bottom, pull those out, white pin over here, push in, pull out. That's it. It's the only thing that's in this wheel well. All right, and then coming around to the driver's side, hopefully this side is easier. You want to take this fuel sensor off, which I think is a vent sensor of some sort. So you take this guy off. Somebody broke the lock on this one, and there's no lock on it, so you just gotta wiggle it under from underneath. Take that guy off, pull it off the cab. And then this guy, same thing. There's two ears on the green. Pop it up. And then we'll hit the white button underneath to unlock it. That comes right off. And then next we want to take this hose clamp off of the big fuel hose, which I think is a 7mm. Should be. And it is. So we'll just take this guy off and break it free. Hopefully it breaks free. Oh yeah, nice. Bam. Okay, driver side is now done. And in the driver fender well, you'll have this connector you have to unplug, which in a Rubicon, this would be like your lockers and stuff. So there's other wires in the Rubicon. In the Sahara, there's only 2 wires coming out of there. I can only assume they are for the front locker. So you're gonna wanna disconnect that. Moving over to the steering column, you're gonna wanna take that 13 out and then just pop that guy off of there. This is the ABS bracket, which is already loose. So this is going to come down with the brake lines, and then the master cylinder is going to come off of there when we're ready to go up. I believe that's all we have in here at the moment. Again, all this is already out. You took it out from the top, but if you didn't, you can get this out now. Pulling this connector out is the same way. There's a little lock on here. Pop the lock up. Come on, it's full of dirt. There it goes. And then that's it. Pull it off the stud. This will go with the chassis. This will stay with the body. Steering column is super easy. Ta-da! Don't lose this bolt. It's a special bolt. I guess not really special. It's just the right length. And you can see there's a little bit of Loctite on there. Put some Loctite on when you put it back together. All right, now moving underneath, we have to take off the rear e-brake cables. Now I know what you're thinking. These things suck. Trying to get all these little fingers off of there and trying to get them through the hole, and sometimes it's a real pain in the butt. Don't worry, got you covered. Get yourself a 1/2-inch wrench. This one's a crappy one. Cut a slot in the box end. Go over the cable. Force that sucker on there. And then pull them through. That easy. Once you get that side off, take the little hook out of that guy. It's pretty easy. That cable's done. Come over here. Do the same thing over here. Yep. And then pull. And just pop him out of the hole. Same thing. Bam. Rear e-brake is off. The only other thing you have to do is pull the rear diff vent. You can either do it from here, or you can pop those guys up there, but that's easier. And I think we're pretty much done back here. If you have a receiver and you've wired the wires up and around and through the frame and stuff, you're gonna have to undo all that because you are going to separate the chassis from the cab, and that's going to be a mess. So make sure you check all the wiring back here, or if you have a cool rear bumper that has backup lights and stuff in it, you're going to want to make sure the cabling that runs through the chassis is not in the way. We do have to take off those 2 cables, but we can get the body halfway up before we do that. And I'm pretty sure we are done under here. All right, so we got all the body bolts off. There's 2 nuts up front, and then 1, 2, and 3 on this rocker, and 1 in the back. These are all bolts. Some of them do not come all the way out. They will kind of float like that one. So there's a little retainer on there. So some of these are just like that. Some of them will come out. The back 2 usually have like water in them, so those are fun. When you pull those out, you get wet. Unfortunately, this one did not. So now we're going to put it down and then redo the rack to lift the pinch bolts, and we'll go ahead and try to get this body up right now. And last but not least, once you get it back down on the ground, there's a couple of power things you got to disconnect. You want to pull this main harness off of the box. You want to disconnect this guy. This is your main power right here, which is going to drop the whole connector. And then this right here goes back up to the fuse box. So you're going to want to take that off. This goes with the Jeep motor. This ground right here, this first one, this needs to come off also. Pop that ground off right here, this first one. And then pop these guys off of this box. Christmas trees off of here. All right, once we get those Christmas trees off of there, this whole harness right here. This whole harness stays with the Jeep, and I'm pretty sure that we are 100% ready to go. Well, I was 99% sure, and I haven't lifted it up yet. As you can see, I haven't even moved the ramps. Heater core, gotta take the heater core off. It's a lot easier than you think. The same 2 clips that were on the transmission, the little E-looking clip things, there's 2 of them on the heater core, 1 on each hose, and then they literally just pull off. So you can't really see them in here, but they're in there. Those 2 guys right there. And on the back side of them, there's 2 of those little E-clips. And then these literally just pop right off. So we're gonna try to climb in there and pop those 2 right now. Okay, now that the heater core is off, we are going to move the rack just to the pinch of the body. I had to take the steps off of this one because they were in the way. But again, you wanna just go there and you wanna make sure that you're not in the way of this frame mount either, so that when you don't catch it with the rack on the way up. So we've looked it over, and now you go up inch by inch and make sure you're not pulling any cables or anything. And here we go. You're gonna wanna get it about a foot off of the frame at some point, because then you have to get in there and do the 2 trans cables. So this is the fun part. So, all right, before we get too far, there is 1 connector right here. This is for the evap. I've actually seen, I haven't done it, but I've seen this pulled before, and I've had to rewire those. And then, oh, I'm glad I caught this, but he has, I think these are lit buggy whips. So I got both of those. There's also a brake light harness or bumper harness in here. That goes down to that bumper right there. And then, last but not least, you gotta take this bracket off the bottom. I started to take these 2 hoses off, but then I was like, dummy, just take that guy off. So that just needs to come off 1 bolt. So I'll put those back on, but that comes with the motor. Again, so far so good. This has a block heater in it, so I had to make sure that this was off of the frame. I'm gonna have to make sure that that goes back in. Steering column is disconnected. See, this is falling out of the frame. Now we just gotta pull that brake master off of there. So just make sure the brake master is out of the hole. This bracket is off the body. This is all gonna hang. We got the 2 heater core lines off. As you can see, they just kind of pop right out of there. We're gonna make sure that we got, this guy stays with the motor. So that stays there, that stays there. We are disconnected all the way around there. Oh yeah, the EPM, or the E whatever this thing is, the electronic power steering, EPS. EPS needs to be disconnected right here. So take these off the EPS. And there was, this ground was on the block ground. So I had to take that off. Didn't see that. That's why we go up a little bit at a time. But we look great. All right, EPS is disconnected. Again, I think we're doing really well. That's gotta go with the motor, so we gotta lift that guy out of there. This comes up with the motor. Oh yeah, make sure you cap those off. Don't want to get dirt in them. Let's go up a couple more inches. Alright, so now that we're under here, this is the funnest part. These are pretty easy. Put the top back. This guy is a 1/4 turn. Now these are the most fun. They say you just gotta pry that guy off the ball. This is the scariest freaking part. And then once you do that, it's just a 1/4 turn out of this bracket. We go down here, and they say to just pop it off the ball. We'll get that in a minute. This one This one's actually pretty easy. Same thing, you gotta pry it off of the ball. This collar pulls forward, right? And then once it's forward like that, it just rolls right out of there. Oh, if it wasn't dirty. Again, if it wasn't dirty. And it just rolls right out. And the four-wheel drive is disconnected. Okay, to get off of this bracket, which kind of bent, but whatever. I can unbend that one. This is always so scary to me. I don't know why they make it like this. You just pop it off of that ball. So that cable's off. Oh yeah, let's go back to this one. All right, yep, you just pull that down and then slide her out. That cable's off too. So now, we just throw those back there. Everybody's off, as you can see. There's nobody's left tied to the chassis. We got two e-brake lines back there. And the one vent, and now we just go all the way up. And that is how you pull a body on a 2018 and up JL. It's honestly not that bad. If I wasn't filming, it's usually like 2.5, 3 hours. Trust me, trying to get all of these bell housing bolts off of this thing and like trying to yank this thing out the nose sucks. This is so much easier if you can do this. So that's it for tonight. She's off. We'll come in here tomorrow, drag this thing out, swap this motor out. And good morning. So yesterday we got this thing apart, and as you can see, it's actually pretty easy. Kind of time consuming, but it is relatively easy. But now you have access to the whole firewall, and as you can see, there's not a lot going on here. There's a bunch of wiring up there that I am going to redo, and now that we're in this state, it's actually a lot easier to do it. But then you have this thing. So from here, you could do anything you want. You can roll it out. You can do suspension modifications. You can do engine swaps. You can do all that good stuff. You can clean the frame, which we might actually end up doing because it's pretty rough. It's pretty dirty. But we are going to roll this thing out. This is your park pin right here, this little guy, so you can lift this up. You can wire that up, and then you'll be in neutral, and you can roll it forward. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get this thing out from underneath the cab and get it out here in the middle of the floor. All right, so we're just gonna get this thing out. You just lift this little lever up, pulls the pin out. Oh, there we go. Out she comes. All right, so from this point, we are going to swap this motor. We need to drop the manifolds. So we're going to drop the manifolds, unbolt it here, and unbolt it over there. We need to take this drive line off. We need to take that drive line off because we are going to pull the whole thing up. Up front, I don't think there's much to do because the EPS system is all on the frame to the gearbox. So there's no, if you had a power steering pump, you'd have to take those two lines off. We're pretty close to just yanking this thing out of here all in one piece. So we do have to drop these manifolds. Now, I am a little scared of that guy, so we're gonna lubricate them up right now and let them sit while we take the drive lines off, and hopefully they come off. Oof. All right, now that we got the manifolds off, I do want to show you taking these headers off or this manifold off. You might have to pull this top two bolts because then it slides in, wedges in, then these two bolts on the top hold it up. You might have to break these two loose, but it just slides out of that. So that's pretty neat. So you get those two off, you get the drive lines off. And the only thing I got to do is take the fuel lines off. All right, once those fuel lines are popped, the only thing left we got is the 218 nuts. There's one on this side and one on that side. Loosen up that motor mount bolt. You do not have to take it out. It is slotted on the top. So you just have to loosen both of those, and we'll get ready to yank this thing out of here. Okay, so now that we have this guy loose, he's loose, and we got those little guys nuts off, next thing we gotta do, rig it up. So I like to go around this with a strap and around the alternator. Just kidding. You gotta take the alternator off. It comes with this hook, but this hook is too far off center. The motor wants to come out of here like this. Ask me how I know, I've already tried it. Not this time, but I've done it before. So you take the alternator off and I'll use this bracket and I'll strap into that bracket and then bolt that bracket back on. Seems to be fairly straight. And then we're going right out the back side of the trans, which is in line with the crank. So this is the best that I have found. It doesn't put any pressure on anybody. It doesn't crush the manifold or anything. So here's how we take it out. All right, we got it out. We got them both on the floor. Now the tedious task of making sure everything goes from this one to that one before we shove it back in. Depends on how you get yours, you know, or if you're gonna do this, or if you're going to an LS now or a Hemi or whatever you're doing, you know, this is where you kind of go your way if you're doing something different. But I'm going to make the old one, make the new one look like the old one. Yeah, but cleaner. So we'll be back in a little bit. And just like that, the old motor is all torn down and the new motor is all dressed up. Nothing left to do now except for get that sucker back in that sucker. So here we go. All right, well, there goes nothing. I'm not gonna lie, a forklift makes this job so much easier, especially if it's got side shift and tilt and up and down. Well, most of them have tilt and up and down, but if it has side shift, primo. So she's in. Let me get this thing disconnected and get this thing out of here. Now that we've gotten this far, if you have an LS, you're probably going to have to modify like shift linkages and stuff like that, or do whatever you're gonna do there. If you're doing an engine swap, hopefully you took a lot of pictures in the front side, because now you just basically reverse the operation and put it back together. I am going to go ahead and try to get the front of this. I'm not going to try. I'm going to get the front of this put back together, get it all ready to roll back under the Jeep. There's a couple of tricks to line it back up. I just kind of shove it under there, and then I'll use a jack to like walk it one way or the other, and then you're going to let it down and bolt it back together. But right now, I'm going to get the front of this thing put back together. This is also a good time if you have weld-on rock sliders that you can actually weld the tops across the top of the frame rails, because I know you didn't do it when you put them on because you can't get up there. The rock crawler long arm kit, there's a couple of places that you can weld now that you got the body off. I only know that one because of Kevin's Jeep. Yeah. So this is a good opportunity to go ahead and look over the frame and get any of those hard to reach spots that you couldn't get before. Give it a little touch up and go. All right, now we got everything back on. We got the drive lines back on. We have the exhaust back on. All the O2s are hooked back up. Fuel lines and evap are all hooked back up. Everybody is hooked back up. Alternator's back on. All the front dress is all back on. We are good to go. Now we just got to push it back under there. Now, if you're by yourself, this is the hardest part. Gotta go down little by little, make sure nothing gets caught, nothing gets hung up, nothing gets smashed or damaged. We are gonna go down to about 12 inches, and then we're gonna hook the trans lines back up. And we're gonna keep going down little by little, make sure nothing gets pinched. All right, so we're doing pretty good. But if you'll notice, we're off just a little bit right here compared to this side. So we can shift the chassis that way. So all we're gonna do is gonna jack it up and then just turn the jack and then let it back down. Yep, so we got the little jack out. You literally just jack it up ever so slightly. And then if you just twist it like that, you'll see it'll come right in. Like that. That's literally all you gotta do. And then we can set it back down. Then we'll come back up and around to the front. And as you can see, the hardest thing to do is make sure that steering stem doesn't get caught on anybody on the way down. So we just gotta lift it up. We'll go down a couple of inches and just keep moving it, moving it, and moving it. Make sure this comes on the inside of the frame. Make sure all the hoses go over this bracket. And we are still looking great. Just make sure this doesn't get pinched. We got nobody getting pinched up here, nobody getting pinched in the back. Back there, or in here. You can see we're doing really well. So we just keep going down little by little. And she's down. Nice, there it is. We are all the way down. Sweet. Now that it's down, pretty much self-explanatory. Make sure you tighten up all the body bolts. Make sure you hook everything back up underneath the hood. Battery, power, all the brake stuff, all the brackets and stuff, and get ready to put the nose back on. So now we gotta do a lot of connecting. So we got her all back together. And we are topping her off. Now we get to see if she'll start. Charge the battery, so we'll see. All right, now for the moment of truth. See what happens. Well, we have lights, that's a good thing. We have lights, right? Here we go. Dang. Look at that shit. Can you say that on YouTube? I think I've done this before. That was a very non-climactic start. That started way too easy. But hey, I'll take it. So it's pretty much done. We're gonna go drive it, and then we're gonna check transmission fluid level because of the cooler. I think we're probably down a quart. That's a video for like another time because that's a whole process. But yeah, that was pretty easy. And that's how you do 3/6 swap in a Jeep JL. Nice. That was a 2-day adventure. And we're done. See you next time.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
So today we're... I can't.
Today we're laughing hysterically.
It's okay. You gotta learn the sounds of the UGA.
If it wasn't so easy to pull the body, that would probably be your only way to do it. This is terrible.